today's training will be centered on food safety and hygiene. And for us to have professionals in our midst, we would like to consider this aspect of training as regards to food safety management systems. Okay, even for the food business operators, if you are here with us, we also have a whole lot to be able to function or be the best at what you do. So, what is food? When we talk about food, according to ISO 22000, food is any substance. It could be ingredients, whether processed, semi-processed, or raw, which is intended for consumption and includes drink, chewing gum, and any substance which has been used in the manufacture, preparation, or treatment of food, or does not include cosmetics or tobacco or substances. Ingredients used only as drugs. So when we talk about food, we are excluding drugs here, and we are excluding your cosmetics. So the ISO point of it could be processed, it could be a semi-processed, or it could be raw, and it should be intended for consumption. So when you hear the word food, it's something that you eat, it's something that you can drink, okay, and it should also at the end of the day meet its intended use. So according to a layman's definition, so if you ask somebody, or if you ask your mom at home, or you ask your child, what quickly comes to mind is anything we eat or drink that gives our body energy and nutrients to grow, to stay healthy and function properly. So we can classify our fruits and vegetables, our bread, our rice, our meat, our fish, our milk, and water. They are all what's food. So simply put, that is what keeps us alive, strong, and healthy. So if this food doesn't meet that, then there is a problem. Okay, there's a problem, and that is what we would explore today as food scientists. So what are the benefits and drawbacks when it comes to food? Like I've mentioned already, it supports growth, it fuels your body for good development and immunity boost. That means when you eat your food, the food has to serve its purpose. Okay, it has to give you that energy and growth, and as well boost your immunity. But then there are some advantages or drawback when we talk about food. You could have your overeating, which leads to obesity, which you all know. Okay, you can have foodborne illnesses. Okay, you also have nutrient deficiencies. You have life of kwashiorkor. Okay, and you have allergies and intolerances. Then environmental impacts. So these are the advantages when it comes to what food. And then because of the matter today, as food safety professionals or as food scientists and technologists, we'll be considering this aspect of foodborne illnesses. How poor handling would cause infection. So if you look at my slide here, you see someone like in the convenience trying to throw up. Okay, this is what really happens most times when we consume food that is not safe for us. And then the general public, every other person goes to our bed, you go to birthday parties, you go for wedding ceremonies, and foods are being served. And then after eating that food, I usually ask my students a thought-provoking question. How do you feel? When you come back home, you keep visiting the convenience, you keep throwing up and the likes. And of course, as a consumer, you will not be happy. Okay? And this has been a global issue. It affects the public health. So when you talk about foodborne diseases, it can negatively impact the public health. It can impact on the trade and tourism. Okay? And food spoilage can also result in waste, financial losses. You see, we are talking about food loss and waste according to FSS 22000, the additional requirements. Okay, this last document that's trying to capture food loss and waste. So it's been proven that at the consumer level, you keep wasting food. And once you keep wasting food, it could lead to financial losses. It could be from your own end or to your family and the like. So when we talk about food and the implications of unsafe food, it has a very great link with the public as a whole. So everyone, you and I, as food safety professionals, as food business operators, as food scientists and technologists, we have roles. Okay, and it could be in your kitchen. Okay, it could be at your place of work. It could be in that your small business you run. So when we understand this role, it will help us to make sure that the food is safe. So what is food safety? From a professional definition, food safety is the assurance that food will not cause adverse health effects. So is that when we talk about food safety, we look at the assurance that food will not cause adverse health effects to the consumer when it is eaten or prepared according to its intended use. So how is it eaten or prepared according to its intended use? Even the light of the consumers, you handle your food in such a way that it gets contaminated. And at the end of the day, you have adverse health effects upon consumption of such food. So when we look at food safety, as in the general, it's that assurance that you as a food safety professional in your organization, or you as a food scientist or technologist, or even a food business operator, that the food you produce will not cause adverse health effects to the consumer. When my mom in the village eats the food, she'll be fine. And when your dad in the village eats the food, you also will be fine. And then if you see people talk about food suitability and food safety, and they tend to treasure these two. Well, while the two might be different, I see the two that they work hand in hand. Okay, food suitability, that's the assurance that food is acceptable for human consumption according to its intended use. So these two, they complement each other. Food safety, food suitability, they complement each other to make sure that you give your consumer the best. So, and what is food chain? So for us to produce a safe food, okay, that will meet its intended use, we have to consider various food chains. It could be the stages in your food production, maybe at the farm where you source your raw materials. It could be through the processing. It could be through the distribution. It could be through storage and handling of the food and anything with that. And once this chain is broken, there's a breach, and it could lead to contamination of food. So, as food business operator or as a food safety professional or food scientist and technologies, it's your primary role to understand your food chain, the sequence of activities, the stages through production, processing, distribution, and storage. So according to this diagram by Boato on food hygiene, Boato has explained to us that food safety and stability must be assured at every link of the food chain. Remember I said through production, processing, storage, the likes. So what are the examples of an unsafe food? When you say a food is unsafe, there should be a presence of what hazard in that food. The hazard could be in form of physical hazard, chemical hazard, or biological hazard. So you have the presence of salmonella, listeria, bone splitters, stones, and it makes the food worse unsafe. And when you consume such food, you know what happens. It leads to adverse health effects. And so what are the examples of unsuitable food? We have a poor textured food. For instance, you've gone to the supermarket or to a mall to get your yogurt. At the end of the day, the yogurt, the appearance, like there's mold in it. It has a bad appearance. As for you as a consumer, it's very unsuitable for consumption. So when you talk about food safety, you also have to consider the suitability of the food. And those of us in the quality department, we keep saying that it's suitability first. But if you ask me as a food safety professional, and the way it's supposed to be, okay, food safety precedes. It is not negotiable because the health of the consumer is what at stake. So, for a food business or a food business operator that is really practicing food safety, that is ensuring the safety of the food throughout the food chain, okay, you stand to have a lot of benefits. Their importance associated with this practice. Not only does it assure the health of the consumer, it also reduces cost reduction for your business. So you don't have the need to come and start reworking your food or downgrading, or product recall or product withdrawal. Okay, so the cost is what's reduced. And then you have a better working environment. When you go to your food places, okay, there should be a form of cleanliness. The premises, everything around the support areas is just clean. And then quality improvement. I used to tell my colleagues, if at all there should be a deviation in the product, it should be what? An improvement. It should be a quality improvement in terms of the taste, smell, appearance. And remember, talk about quality improvement, it's also cut across the stability of the food. So, your company reputation, your company as a small food business operator, you have a good reputation. People want to buy, you have happy customers. Okay. Word of mouth, the profit keeps growing. And then the last but not the least, compliance with legislation. You comply according to legal requirements. So in the course of this training also, we will get to know the legislation that you're supposed to comply with. As a food safety professional in your organization, it's also your responsibility to make sure that the benefits or the practices of food safety in your industry meet the compliance of this legislation. So what are the disadvantages of unsafe food? Please, can you go back to keep going, is you face legal penalties. There are legal penalties associated with this. So you have to stand a chance of paying fines or business closure because of an unsafe food. So as a food business operator, it could be your restaurant, you have a restaurant, okay? You don't need to face this legal penalties if you are practicing a good safety management system in your place. So the next thing is what? It's loss of work. People get to lose their jobs. So for those of us in the quality department, most times when there is an issue in the market, we are all scared. So, because if it happens to be that a product will be recalled or brought back to the company, the management will want to know who are the personnel on duty, what really happened. Okay, that's if it's based on contaminated food. So the satisfaction, complaints, loss of reputation. The customers keep complaining, word of mouth, like I said, it's positive and it's negative. So if you are giving them what they want, they keep spreading. And if you are giving them the negative ones, they keep spreading the gospel. I mean, you get to see maybe two friends sitting at a place. Oh, did you buy that food from that restaurant? Please don't go to that restaurant to buy food again. Or don't buy that company's products. It's unsafe. So you lose customers. And then there's decrease in morale. You don't trust your brand again. And things keep changing and keeps unfolding. So, like I said, we have global food safety challenges. I cited it a bit when I was talking about the link with food safety and public health. So this global food safety challenges is something that we food safety professionals we are seeing. Okay, at the way the trend is how it's happening, because the size of your business determines the complexity of your supply chain. So for most food businesses that has a very big supply chain, it becomes a challenge. It becomes a problem to mitigate risk or to mitigate food hazard across a long supply chain. So the bigger your supply chain, the more the risk associated with your food. And then the climate change. The climate change impacts. We have example is the greenhouse gas emission. So last year, the ISO body, ISO 2000, had to have an addendum on the clause 4.1 of the organization. So it's required that organizations now they understand the impact of the activities in the environment. I mean your carbon footprint. You should know the impact of your activities in the environment, how it affects the climate. And you can rightly believe with me that if once it's the foods that are dependent on climate, like your vegetables and the likes, keep losing, and then food safety becomes what? Prominent. It becomes an issue. So imagine pathogens and antibiotic resistance. Yes, imagine pathogens, antibiotic resistance. You might try to clean your food equipment today. The next day it becomes resistance. Okay, you keep using antibiotics over and over again, and this things build resistance over time. So this is also one of the global food safety challenges that the food businesses are experiencing. And last but not least, the food insecurity. Okay, we know the likes of the Boko Haram that is happening. Okay, let's keep the food fraud and contamination risk. So it's all about making money. Okay, people want to make money. Food business operators want to make money. Okay, they go ahead to mislead customers. You have a product, and for example, you are into fish. You are selling fish, and you go ahead to package a tilapia fish in the name of mackerel. So that's food fraud. Or you try to misrepresent your food. Like my company, we are into vegetable oil, the palm oil. Then you go ahead to tell your consumer that you are into soya oil. So that's misleading, and it's also a challenge that's ongoing. So the last but not the least, the food insecurity. So this food insecurity is more like most times the farmers can't get to the farm, the harvest, the herdsman attack, and the likes. So these are the challenges facing food safety. And so these habits that food illnesses affect millions of people worldwide. It affects millions of people. Those that are reported, those that are not reported. Okay, you can always talk about the ones you hear. There are some that are intangible. Like I've mentioned, you've gone for an bed the previous day, and then when you come back, you are sick. Okay, you are infected. You have food poisoning. So probably you do not go outside to report. But the ones that have been reported are still overwhelming. And the World Health Organization estimates that 600 million people become ill after consuming contaminated food. with over 420,000 deaths annually. And there's this group of persons that when it comes to contamination of consumption of contaminated food, it affects them much more. We have the EOP, it's like acronym that can use to identify this group of persons. The young children below the age of 5, okay? The older folks, our parents above the age of 60, we have the pregnant women, we have the immunocompromised people. So this group of individuals, when they consume unsafe food, the effect becomes very fatal. And for us to make sure to give them the assurance that the food is safe, we have to do our own part. I used to tell my students, it's not like you're doing a humanitarian job. Okay, it's a humanitarian job. It's something you have to do with everything in you, with that passion. Who knows? It might be my mom that's going to consume the food that is unsafe. God forbid. Yeah, I know you said that, but that is why when it comes to food, you have to be very, very careful. And for us to produce a safe food and a suitable food as food professionals, as food business operators, as food scientists and technologists, we should know or understand the importance of personal hygiene. And you can even start by creating a personal hygiene policy in your organization. Yes, let it be a policy that is binding, that look, you have to do this, non-negotiable, because that is the only basic condition, you have when it comes to food safety. So personnel who do not maintain or an appropriate degree of personal hygiene, who have certain illnesses or conditions, or who behave inappropriately, can contaminate food and transmit illness to consumers. Now, personal hygiene, it's not like, oh, the one we used to learn those days in school. You want to, your teacher will tell you how to brush your teeth, take your bath and come to work. For food safety, it cuts across that. Okay, it doesn't end with you taking your bath, brushing your teeth in the morning, then you head to work. There's some certain things that you are expected to do as a food handler or as a food safety professional, as a food business operator. There's certain things you have to put in place. The conduct of the personnel, okay? How healthy are they in terms of knowing the health status of people working with you? So if you talk about personal hygiene and food safety, it cuts across a whole lot. It's not just that simple, the principle of taking care of oneself. No. Taking care of yourself and of the food you produce. So we also look at how to reduce foodborne illnesses. So that's one of the important signs. It will reduce foodborne illnesses. People don't have to take your food, they keep falling sick, and they lie, they keep reporting your company. There's also compliance to the regulatory standards. So what are the regulatory standards? You have the NAFDAC here in Nigeria, you have SOM. Okay, so it's required. There are certain rules from your premises, from your equipment that you must meet for you to show full compliance to these regulatory standards. It will also, like I said in the previous slide, protection of vulnerable populations, certain groups, EOP, okay, and then promotion of food safety culture. Okay, we now have a mindset across all food chain, from receiving, okay, from storage, from processing, from the warehousing. We now have one particular mindset. That's the importance, one of the importance of personal hygiene. So for the economic benefits, we already know we do not want to experience any recall. No food business operator would want to experience recall. So it's going to be capital intensive for you to get a patch of the products from the market. So it's not better you have a solid asset management system or have a policy that people will know, look, you have to abide with this for you to even work with us as a food handler. So these are the things that you should consider and also put into cognizance while you run your food business or food business operators and your food safety professionals in various food industries. So what's the big question here? The big question is, what is food hygiene? Food safety, what is food hygiene? So according to Code 2023, we have general principles of food hygiene. Okay, the definition there is that food hygiene are all conditions and measures necessary to ensure the safety and suitability of food at all stages of the food chain. Area. It has those conditions, those things, those basic things, okay, from the temperature handling of the food, packaging. So you have to meet up to all these basic conditions to make sure that this food is safe and at the same time suitable at all stages of your food production, of your food chain. Sorry. So for you to even understand fully what food hygiene is, according to Codex, you should have a system in place. For you to even implement it, there should be a system in place. So you have your prerequisite programs. You have prerequisite programs, the likes of your cleaning program, okay, your jewelry control programs, your environmental monitoring, your allergen management. All these programs will make sure that the food is what safe for the consumer. So it can be supplemented with control measures as CCP, as critical control points, as appropriate. And when taken as a whole, ensure that food is what safe. So all these prerequisite programs will give you what we call a very good food hygiene system. It's not a standalone. When we talk about food safety, it's not something you do in silos. It's something that a group of people come from different departments. Everybody in the organization, they look at food safety culture. They look at a belief, a mindset. Everybody must be involved, and you should have a risk-based thinking of your different processes and how to manage this risk. Next slide. So even for small food businesses, okay, the applying basic principles of hygiene could be as least as these 5 keys to safer food, according to the World Health Organization. For small food businesses, you can incorporate this. At the end of the day, you produce a safe food for the consumer. So what are the 5 keys to a safer food? We have number 1, you keep it clean. What are you keeping clean? You keep your hands clean as a food handler. You keep your equipment clean. Okay? You keep your food equipment clean. And you also make sure that your premises, the food environment is also what's clean. If you're running a restaurant or a bakery, you already know why. Because if you don't keep things clean, the food tools, the food equipment, okay, if they're not clean, you stand the risk of producing an uncontaminated, you stand the risk of producing an unsafe food. Sorry. So the second one is separate raw and cooked differently. So like I said, it's just for small food businesses. This is just a simple thing you can do. Your raw food, you have to separate them from the cooked food. The way you get the food from the market, you stock in the same refrigerator with a already cooked food, you are going to stand a chance of food contamination, which gets into the market. So food are supposed to be cooked thoroughly. They are supposed to be cooked thoroughly. They are supposed to be kept at a safe temperature, which is 5 degrees centigrade to 60 degrees centigrade. Okay, you should avoid the temperature of 5 degrees centigrade to 60 degrees centigrade, because this is what a danger zone. Microorganisms can grow, they can multiply at this temperature, 5 degrees centigrade to 60 degrees centigrade. So the last in the 5 keys, according to World Health Organization, is use safe water and raw materials. If you have a supplier for your water, you should understand the source of the water. There should also be kind of supplier relationship. There should also be an ongoing audit to understand the source of the water you are using to produce your food, or you are using to even cook in a restaurant. Next slide. So the other slide, food business operators are operating with a low scale, probably your restaurant. But for the bigger industries like food, there's this general principle, general hygiene principle. Okay, there are 6 in number. The arrow is showing number 1, which is hygiene measures related to production conditions. What are the hygiene measures? The production environment, the operating premises, your packing station. What hygiene measures are put in place? This is the first one of the principles. The second one is measures of personal hygiene. How do you measure your personal hygiene? Do you know the health status of your workers, of the employees? Do you even do what we call a food handler's test? So this food handler's test is supposed to be done. It should determine the frequency based on your nature of bigger organizations might choose to do every 6 months to ensure that the health of your employees are they are healthy. So things to look out for, you can look out for tuberculosis, look out for hepatitis and the likes. Make sure that those handling they are in good health. So the hygiene measures related to the facilities. What are the cleanliness of your equipment? What are the hygiene designs of your equipment? Your storage devices, okay, your sorting devices, your grading devices. What are they in good hygiene? So you see, most times people tend to treat food safety on the surface. You don't buy the food. You don't even look at your warehouse. Okay, what is the condition of the warehouse? What is the relative humidity of your warehouse? You should also put these things into cognizance before you be able to make sure that you produce food that is safe. All aspects that are related to handling, transport, and storage of food. And the fifth one is all aspects related to control of operation. Your source of water, your raw materials, having a supplier relationship, trying to audit your suppliers to understand what is really going on. And then the last has to do with your cleaning and waste management. Okay, your maintenance. Engineers, they'll come to the shop floor, they do their maintenance, and they end up leaving bolts, okay, the screws and the likes. So it's for you to have a good hygiene system program in place to look at these 6 principles as stated by Codes. Next slide. So for a food business operator, you ask yourself, or a food safety management system professional in your organization, or a food scientist or technologist that is offering services to the food industry, you should ask yourself, what do I need to do? Okay, what do I need to do to make sure that the hygiene of the food is top notch? So as an ABO, as a food business operator, you need to have a strong food safety management system. So when you talk about food safety management system, yes, it's a system that you should have in place before you even start running a food business. Why do I say you should even have it in place? Because it's a kind of a proactive measure, or a proactive approach rather, to identify risks associated with the food and how to prevent them. So if you are amongst the food safety team members in your organization, so you already know that everything, the roles outlined here should even be on your JD. Okay, it's something you have to do to make sure that the food will be safe for consumption at the end of the day. So when it gets to the table from farm to fork, when it gets to the table of a consumer, the person or eats the food and it is safe and it is suitable for consumption. So the first is to what? Identify the risk associated with your food. If I am producing bread, the risk associated with my bread is different for that other food business operator or food business that is producing margarine. These two foods, the nature are different. So the food safety management system will also ensure that you comply to regulatory, okay, their requirements. The NAFDAC, like I said, will come most times to come and do inspection and offer guidelines to even help you and your food business to get what reputation. So it also improves traceability, the monitoring of your food, the journey of the food from farm to fork, from your raw material, from your source to the fork. So when you have a food safety management system in place, you should also know that this is part of your role as a food safety team member in your organization, or as a food scientist or technologist that is offering guidance to a food business. You also need to, it helps to maintain hygiene standards. Okay, once the hygiene policy has been there, the role of the food safety management system is also what to maintain it as a living standard. It's not like a written document you keep. Let it just be there. As you maintain it, look at your policy over time to check. Are there things I'm supposed to implement, or am I supposed to review from time to time? And then food standards training. Training is ongoing. You can't even stop. You train at the point of people coming into your facilities through induction. People you come, you train them, and on the job, you create awareness. It could be through signages, okay. It could be through talks, okay. It could be through toolbox talks. So you create awareness, you create across food safety, so people everybody be on the same page. And then what are the emergency preparedness procedures that you have put in place? I mean, last year when we had a World Food Safety Day, the team was prepared for the unexpected. So even when you have done everything, even when you've done your own part, for you to even start your food business, the unexpected might prevail. It might intervene. So what will you do? Do you have an emergency procedure? Example, you have a fire outbreak in the facility, you have flood. What are you supposed to do? Are you prepared? So at last of all, this is the continual improvement. When you talk about improvement in food safety, you look at it as a continual improvement. It's like a ladder. You climb, you pause, you review, you check to know how effective is what I am doing. How am I supposed to make improvements? Which is the clause 10 of the ISO 22000 standard. You have to keep improving, and it has to be continual. We don't advise people to go for a continuous improvement, no break. There's no, you won't even pause to check if what you have done is really working. So the big issue, food hazard. For us to have foodborne illnesses, there is what? Food hazard already. And then some of my coworkers say, "Oh, Madam, this can't really cause an issue." Okay. Of course, I'm not in the production area. I am an engineer. So why are you talking about food hazard to me? Like I've told you, when it comes to food, every person in the kitchen should be involved. See the way you even do it. You bring in multidisciplinary. You bring somebody from the procurement, you bring somebody from the warehouse, you bring somebody from the engineering department. You bring everybody across all sections, so that you be in the same page to prevent what? Food hazard. So when we define food hazard, we define food hazard as a biological, chemical, or physical agent in food, or a condition, or circumstance of a food that, when not controlled, take note, when not controlled, has the potential to cause illness or an adverse health condition to a person. So if you don't control the hazard, the physical hazard, the chemical hazard, the biological hazards, if you do not control them, if you do not even prevent them, or to reduce it to an acceptable level, there's potential that it's going to cause illness. Remember, we have the IOP, and it could cause an adverse effect, health condition, even for you and I. You might say you're not in that group, but who knows? So the food hazard, we have the three types of food hazard, which is the biological, chemical, and physical hazard. What are the examples of these hazards? The physical hazard, you look at the metals, okay? You look at the stones, the glass, the plastic, packaging components, after maintenance activities, the gaskets, okay, the bowls, scrapings. And then you see the lights of the eyelashes. These are the things you see that could be in a food that makes the food was unsuitable, that makes the food was also unsafe. So we also have the chemical hazard. So most times when we talk about chemical hazard, it's something like, oh, people don't really even understand how this thing happens. That's why we say everything you use, let me not say chemical, everything you use in your shop floor, there should be what? A label on it. You should make sure there's a control to label, to identify the liquids you use in your food production areas. So processing eggs could be a hazard. For my organization here, we bleach, okay? So at what quantity, at what dose are you expected to bleach your products? So if it's in excess, it's a hazard. So, and also the nail polish. You see, food handlers, you have your hair nail polish, you have nail varnish. All these things can serve as point. It could be chippings, which will contaminate the food. Then the cleaning chemicals. Oh, I'm cleaning the soap. This is the soap. And somebody comes to the shop floor. Okay, the person will now use the soap as a lubricant. That's a risk of contamination. And that contamination of food hazard is what? Chemical. The pesticides that you use in your facility. So it's even pertinent that you understand the kind of pesticides that you use to control pests in your organization. Please take notes. You can as well, for those of us that have our integrated pest management system at source, you can always look out to engage, know the specification of the pesticides they are using. And strong fragrances, I used to tell them, please stop these strong fragrances. I don't need to know that you are here. You can always do your mild roll-on and you are fine. Then allergens. Allergen is a sort of chemical contamination. So the food, we all know, you are reacting, the consumer or the host is reacting to this allergen. And once it's contaminated, the food, you have already said in your food that there's no allergen in it. At the end of the day, there is allergy. So it will be a hazard to the consumer, and it can cause adverse health effects. So the last here is what? Biological hazards. The bacteria, the viruses, parasites. Where are the sources of this category? You get them from your product lumps. Most times we have our idle lines. Idle lines. Oh, we're not using this line. Okay, we are not using this line. Or for those of us in the restaurant, you use your cutleries. Okay, you use your cutleries, your cutting boards, and then you don't clean. You leave them. They grow molds. The microorganisms they grow on them. It's a sort of contamination. And once you use it probably for your salad, if there's a presence of salmonella, okay, a cutting board you've used to cut your meat, and we know that salmonella they grow mostly in meat. So and use it for a salad. That's contamination already, and you know what happens to the consumer once the food is consumed. Um, the consumer ever stands a risk of infection or food intoxication or both of them toxic infection. So when you talk of infection, it's more like, oh, the consumer has consumed the living microorganisms, pathogenic microorganisms, and then the intoxication, oh, the toxins, oh, you must have hit, probably you've cooked, and then the toxins are there, they didn't die off, okay, and then the consumer also wants the intoxication. The last toxic infection, the both, because a consumer consumes a live microorganism, and at the same time, the microorganism will now produce toxins inside the host. That leads to fatal cases. So we wouldn't want these things, right? As a food safety professionals and as food business operators and as food scientists and technologists. So this cause mainly is just to expose us in the field we are and what we are expected to do. Next slide. So how do we prevent food safety hazards? So you can see the picture of the lady there. She keeps thinking, how do I even prevent this from happening? So I used to tell my friend Tomiwa here that you have to think, you have to have a risk-based thinking. When you see things happening, you have to look out for the risk associated with it. How is it going to affect your food? So for food scientists and technologists, we should have a risk-based thinking that will help us to produce safe food. So for you to prevent hazards, it starts with what we call the hazard analysis. These are systems that can really help to prevent food hazard. Hazard analysis and identification, example is when you do your risk assessment, what is the probability of my food having this type of risk, and what is the severity when a consumer consumes this food. So when you have this risk methodology, you can use it to draw up a HACCP plan. I will explain when we get to the session of HACCP. So the second one is having as basic as GMP and sanitation standard operating procedures. So what GMPs are all just basically systems that ensures that food is produced according to a controlled manner and consistently. So temperature control, look at the temperature of your food, of your storage, proper storage, how you storing your food, and the handling and so on. So to also prevent cross contamination, we even advise food business operators or the restaurant people. You do what we call a color code of your food tools, your chopping boards, okay, your utensils. Let them be color coded, so you know probably red is for high risk food, and you know that when you use red, it should be for raw food. And then you have the supply verification and ingredient quality. Just like I've said, your water, the source of water, you just know the source where it's coming from. You have regular audits. And then employee training and personal hygiene. Train your employees. Train your co-workers. Let it just be an ongoing something. If you find yourself as a food safety professional in your organization, it's also one of your responsibilities. Make sure that these trainings are what are done. It might not even be the formal HR training thing. Can be something you can even do one-on-one, engage people, talk. And then last but not least, the monitoring and verification. You have to monitor, right? And then you verify through auditing. It's like, so what is HACCP? You hear the big word HACCP. What is HACCP? HACCP is simply a systematic approach for identification, evaluation, and control of food safety hazards. It's an approach you use. And I believe that every other food business should have an HACCP plan. This HACCP plan will enable you to be able to conduct a hazard analysis, understand the hazard associated with your food. It's not a one-fit-size for all food. It's not because somebody, you have a colleague that has a HACCP plan for the industry, you can go ahead to bring that HACCP. And of course, it doesn't work that way. For you to even start the HACCP analysis, you should do the preliminaries. You have to constitute a group of various multidisciplinary, from procurement, from storage, from maintenance. They should all be involved. And then you have to describe your product and the least intended use. Oh, we are producing margarine, and we want it to be of good texture. So, which people are supposed to take this food? Is this food going to be unsafe for some people? You have to understand your product, describe it and its intended use. And then you do what we call on-site flow diagram. Sorry, first do a flow diagram of your process. For the food science and technology students, I know you must have learned your flow diagram, unit of operation from start to finish, from receiving, okay, if you're taking to the silos, you're taking to your storage tanks, the next step, you have to have a flow diagram of your process. And then do an on-site verification. Most of the time we write them, when we put them down, okay, we don't really match it up with what you see. But when you do this on-site verification, it will help you make amends. Also, someone from the procurement will say, no, at this point, we did not receive. Someone from the engineering, no, at this point, there's no maintenance. So these things is the very first, like these first steps are things you're supposed to do for you to even start having a plan for your company or for your food business. So you conduct hazard analysis, okay? I said you do your risk assessment, okay? And then you determine the critical control points. Establish the critical control, not just establishing it, you validate it. If you're supposed to cook your meat if it's chicken or poultry, you are supposed to heat at 75 degrees centigrade. Let it be validated. A study must have been done to show that, at this point, you kill pathogenic microorganisms. So you should follow suit. It should be supported by scientific evidence. And then you keep monitoring. It is a continuous thing. Keep monitoring the procedure. If what we are doing or what you have done is really working. Even if it's working or it's not working. Okay? There should also always be a corrective action in place. Corrective action are those actions that will prevent the reoccurrence, okay, future reoccurrence of a non-conformity. To address it, it's not just about correction now. Okay, the meat was burnt. Oh, no. Do not burn the meat. It has to be documented at certain temperature. You're supposed to subject your food to. And at this, if you don't use these parameters, something will go out of place. So it has to be documented. Your corrective actions would have to document. So that any person that is coming after you will also know that this thing must have happened in the past, and these are the corrective actions put in place for this not to happen again. Now you have the verification procedures, verification activities, inspection, audit. You want to do an analysis. You want to understand in product checks. They are all verification and analysis, verification procedures. To check if the product quality is meeting the spec. Then record keeping. If it's not documented, it's not done. When it comes to food safety, it has to be documented. We need to document every step we take in our HACCP plan. It has to be documented. It has to be a spreadsheet where you put the risks associated with the product, the nature of the risk, and then measures to either control them or even eliminate them or reduce it to an acceptable level. So it's an internationally recognized system. That's why you hear food industries, most of them are HACCP certified. So once you have this plan in place, you're sure to make sure that the food you produce is going to be safe. I used to say it's both a preventive and reactive approach. Why do I say this? At the start, you put your measures in place. Then reactive, when things go out of hand, you then have your corrective action. That's you've reacted to the situation. So for you to produce food that is safe, as a food safety professional in your organization, you should also know that your HACCP plan should also have a defined interval or frequency of review. You have to check if what you have written, that document you have written, if it's really functional. So when you talk of HACCP, I mentioned established critical control points. What are that? The critical control point is that step at which control can be applied and is essential to prevent or eliminate the food safety hazard or reduce it to an acceptable level. I will tell my people here, it's more like the pitch. Okay, you're the football pitch. The first man is doing his job. The goalkeeper is midfielder. So you can work, but at the end of the day, the goalkeeper that is your CCP, your critical control point. Once the preparation of there, once the goalkeeper doesn't catch the ball, that means it's a goal. So when it comes to food safety, your CCP should be your goalkeeper. Should be your last point of food defense to show your product is safe. An example is when you cook to a certain temperature, okay? When you cook your food, what are the techniques? Pasteurization, metal detection, pH control, washing, sanitizing raw produce, sealing, and packaging. Those are examples of CCP. And it should be noted in your HACCP plan. But here is the big gist, is that not all food businesses has CCP. Yes, you heard me. So if you are into warehousing, okay, you might not need the whole CCP thing. Your programs, your prerequisite programs, will be able to handle the hazards associated with your food. So what are the legislation and regulatory framework? So we have the NAFDAC, we have SON in Nigeria, we have Food Safety Modernization Act, okay, of the US. The in Nigeria is NAFDAC that is responsible. And for you to even operate, you should be NAFDAC certified, right? So you have to meet the requirements of NAFDAC, national or international standard you are using for your food product. You should have to benchmark it. You don't just start your food business, you keep doing. You don't have any framework to benchmark, and then when NAFDAC comes, you're not even contacting NAFDAC. So you stand a chance to be fined, your business closure. So NAFDAC is our national regulation, and the SOE. We even have the CPC. So the impact on the industry: ensure consistency in food safety practices, promote consumer confidence. Oh, that company or Fortune's Bakery has never had an issue in the market, has never had an issue with NAFDAC. So the consumer's confidence is there. Person wants to buy from your brand. Okay, the person wants to buy your products because has been able to or confirm that your food is safe. So it also drives continuous improvement and innovation in food processing and handling practices. So the compliance and enforcement procedure is that most times they come for regular inspection, go for audit, and then put corrective actions in place to make sure that you are really abide as a food business operator or as a food safety professional to what food safety standard requirements you are subscribed to the same. So non-compliance can lead to penalties. I said that earlier. Can lead to penalties and come one day and get locked up. And you know what that means. If you are a food safety professional in your organization and that happens, the first thing that you want to ask is he a food safety issue? Is he a food safety issue? You want to understand this food safety issue. So you must run the risk of losing your job. So what are the key food safety certifications? We have ISO 22000, we have FSS 22000, we have AIB. These are certifications we have. We definitely have. No, we have classic ISO 22000, we have FSS 22000. So these are food certifications. So we we get to mix them up. They are the food regulatory bodies, they are different from food safety certification. Food safety certification is, you have already, you know that for you to operate as a food business operator in a particular country, you should abide by the food safety or regulatory requirements. And then you should have a framework that will help you do that. That framework could be your HACCP, could be ISO 22000, okay? And it could also be FSS 22000, AIB, depending on your operations. It's not a one fit size for every other business. When an operation, or if you want to sell, you want to be recognized globally, you go to FSS 22000 or AIB or ISO 22000. But if they don't know that, you can even stop. You can even stop with your HACCP. You can even stop with your HACCP, you know. So for the difference between the FSS 22000 and ISO 22000 is that for FSS 22000, remember I said not all food businesses, they have CCPs. So even for FSS 2000, basically for food businesses that has CCPs, because it's more robust, okay, it will help you manage the risk associated with your food. But ISO 20000 it's not for much more advanced food industry. But don't forget that for the FSS 22000, it has the ISO 22000 in it, okay, it has sector-specific programs and additional requirements embedded in them. So it's much more robust. So you can choose as a food safety management system professional in your organization, if you're not satisfied, okay, or if you don't have a certification already, you can look at it and first have discussion with your management on which one works best for you. So according to ISO 22000, an audit is a systematic, independent, and documented process for obtaining audit evidence, evaluating it objectively to determine the extent to which the audit criteria are fulfilled. So when we talk about audits, you should have most times we have food safety audits. If I tell someone I'm a food safety auditor, what's there? Is it the finances? No. This is auditing of the food safety management system. And of course, because you are subscribed to a food safety certification, the certification body will have to audit your organization. has different cycles. For AIB, it has to be annual. For FSS 22, that's also annual, allow annual, all these things. Yeah, so they have a cycle of the requirements you're supposed to meet. And when you are being audited, you will be audited according to those standards. If you are subscribed to FSS 22,000, you'll be audited according to FSS 22,000. It has to be that standard. It's going to be your audit criteria. So why are food safety audits important? Ensures compliance, consumer trust, risk management, consumer improvement. And then we have 3 types of food safety audits. We have the first party audit, we have the second party audit, and we have the third party audit. So these audits, the first party is just an internal self-assessment, where you have your verification method. You want to verify if your CCP is working. It's an audit. Second party audit could be, your supplier, like I said, your raw material, you audit them. So third party is dependent on the certification bodies. Okay, they will come to audit you to check your compliance. So when auditors come, they will come to review your documentation. They will come to check the plans, the procedures, the training, to inspect your facilities, to examine your service preparation. Observe practices, watch how your employees, how the food safety professionals, how they do their documentations, how the food handlers, you handle food, are they in good health? You are supposed to back this things up with some certain documents. So for you to run a food business, or for you to be part of a food safety management system, you also understand that you are supposed to comply to that certification. What certification you are subscribed to. Failure, you already know why. Loss of confidence of your consumers. People don't want to buy anymore. And then, what do you do when you are prepared for an audit? You have your plan. You maintain your documents. You retain records. You train employees. Okay. You conduct regular inspections to prepare for the external audit. You have to do all this. You have to put them in place. It's not when the auditor or external auditors come, you keep running around. So it's your role as a food safety professional in your organization to make sure that these things are in place before you even start the audit. So, a little question for us. We have 10 questions here. Now, I want us to really try, okay? Let me know if we are really into what we are doing, if the class is impressive.
So, number 1, we have the highest option chosen was C.
That's fine.
Okay. For number 2, the highest answer chosen was C.
Oh, C, that's correct also. Well done, guys.
Number 3, the highest was A. The highest answer chosen is A.
Fantastic. That's fine. Awesome.
Number 4. Number 4, I can see a draw of A and D.
A and D. Okay, okay. When we talk about food biological hazards, I mentioned the bacteria, viruses, and so sweat of an infected person could be a source of biological hazard. Okay, so the food that carries we have staph errors on our cubicles and the nose, like on our palms. So the answer to number 4 question is what? Sweat. Okay, thank you. So the next question, please.
Number 5, I could see C. The highest number is C.
Oh, that's fine. Fantastic.
Number 6, the highest is 6666 B.
Fantastic. Let's go.
Number 7, the highest is number 7, the highest is there's a draw of C and D.
Benefits of food safety for businesses includes company reputation, compliance with legislation, better working environment, and loss of what? Customer. Benefits of food safety includes or except what? Loss of what? Customer. So when you losing your customer is not a benefit. It's not one of the benefits of food safety. Okay, so when you have food safety system in place, you get what? More customers. Thank you.
Number 8. For number 8. The highest is B.
The highest is B. Okay, fantastic.
Number 9. Number 9. The highest is A.
The highest is what?
A.
Oh, sorry, guys. The answer is what? Poor personal hygiene. So, poor personal hygiene goes across the poor refrigeration, basic cotton boards, and nice etc.
Okay, and then number 10. Number 10. I need more answers for number 10. Number 10. Okay,
Number
I could see C for number 10.
so number 10 is what? A. We have first party audits,
Yeah.
we have second party audits, and we have the third party audits. Okay, so thank you guys for making this attempt. It really shows that we are really concentrating, and we are taking the notes. So should we continue? So for food business operators, okay, and for food safety professionals, you have a critical role to play. Either the safety of your food, the sustainability, the quality, and for regulatory compliance. And for you to understand your role and understand what you're supposed to do, you should know that there are some certain things that are expected of you. You should have a good knowledge. You should have a good knowledge of your food. I always say, there is not a one fit size for every food business. If you're into bread, your approach should be different. If you're into meat sausage, your approach should be different. Now, for my business, I'm even into vegetable oil. Our approach should also be different. So when you understand that your food, what the food you're producing, okay, the intended use, and the things, the nature of your food, it will really help you to have a good food hygiene system. So you have to understand the indicator of microorganisms, pathogenic microorganisms, and the storage microorganisms associated with your food. So the first one, indicator microorganisms. Honestly, they show you early signs. They show early warning signs of contamination. They don't always cause disease, but probably their presence will tell you, oh, you have to do something. Examples are coliforms, your E. coli found in water, your raw material, your water. Okay, it could also be found in your fresh food products. So once you see them, you know that you are in for contamination. Maybe at that early stage, it might not pose a risk, but in the long run, it definitely will pose a risk. Now, once you understand this indicator microorganisms, will help you draw your program, your hygiene programs to target these microorganisms, to either prevent them or eliminate them. So, pathogenic microorganisms, you have the salmonella. Okay, if you are into meat production, you have the Listeria monocytogenes. Also, for dairies, we have the E. coli. Remember, for the indicator, it's just the E. coli. But for the pathogenic microorganisms, you have the sugar-causing E. coli. Basically found in poultry, eggs, dairy, fresh food products. So even your Clostridium botulinum for canned food, you have to understand the nature of your food, like I said, to make sure that your food is safe. So then the last is what the spoilage microorganisms. It will reduce the shelf life of your food, the quality, the suitability of the food. Pseudomonas found in there, meat, seafood, your cleanliness, bad odor. These are responsible for making the food unsuitable. It has a way of making slimy appearances in the food. So once you understand this, and this is according to FSS 22000, okay? So it's a kind of guidance document for food business operators that will help you have a very good safety management system or food hygiene system in place. So that's microorganisms. We usually hear this factum, this acronym called factum. Factum. Well, we have a fat and we have a tongue. Always have that in mind. And so once you have, that there's a factum, you know that it has to do with the microorganisms. Okay, their characteristics. So basically, microorganisms, they feed on what? Your proteinous food. Fatty food, that's where is the source of nutrients to microorganisms. And salmonella, you have the E. coli, okay, you have the Listeria monocytogenes, you have the Clostridium botulinum, you have staph aureus. And microorganisms also, they grow in acidity environments. If you're able to tackle it, make sure that the environment for the food is low in acidity, it will also help. And then the time and the growth rate. Salmonella will also survive. That's why even if you eat it could cause infection. Even the fact that our stomach has high acidity, salmonella will still strive there. Okay, it can still strive in your stomach. So you need to understand these things about microorganisms. You need to understand the temperature range.
Don't go foul.
Requirements. Most of them are facultative anaerobic in nature, in the sense that they can survive aerobic condition and anaerobic condition, oxygen or no oxygen. And then we have the obligate. These obligates is basically they survive in high oxygen places. Your clostridium pattern. That's why. Okay, no, they survive where there's no oxygen. That's why even if you leave your clostridium botulinum in a freezer temperature below 4 degrees centigrade, it will still grow. But how do you even handle this? Make sure that because this like to grow in a place where there's no oxygen, you try as much as possible to include oxygen. Probably the packaging material should make sure that oxygen penetrates or oxygen permeable packaging materials. So these are if you are able to understand the acronym, it will really help you as a food safety professional in your organization to really understand the nature of the organisms you are dealing with and how to make sure that they do not cause harm to the consumer. So we have time and temperature abuse as one of the causes of contamination that cause food hazard. Time and temperature abuse. So there's a relationship between the growth of microorganisms. I mentioned earlier in the class, danger zone. This zone is from 5 degrees centigrade to 60 degrees centigrade. At this time and at this temperature, the microorganisms want to grow. They'll thrive. And it usually happens within 2 hours to 4 hours.
Yeah,
this is a time. There's a rapid growth of microorganisms. So already you know that, or you should make sure that your food, the timing and the temperature of storage should be taken into consideration to make sure that your food is safe at the end of the day. So improper cleaning and sanitation, people, you don't even know the difference between cleaning and sanitation. These things are two different things. Cleaning is just physically to remove soils and dirt. And then sanitation, you talk about the disinfection. And then poor personal hygiene, like I said, it has to start with people. It's a people's thing. People in the organization, the people that's handling your food, you as a food safety professional that's going to the shop floor to do your inspection, you should also lead by example. Then cross-contamination. Making sure that you color code your tools, make sure that they do not cross-contaminate each other. So if you want to understand the relationship between temperature and time and bacterial growth and the time, it will help make sure that the food is safe. So bacteria, they multiply rapidly in the temperature danger zone, which is 5 degrees centigrade to 60 degrees centigrade. And for proper refrigeration, it should be below 5 degrees centigrade. So it's at this point, you make sure that you halt the growth of microorganisms, because at this temperature, they are not likely to grow, except the likes of the Clostridium botulinum, which I've explained to us that even at this time, even if you store in the refrigerator, you might need to package it in such a way that air or this oxygen so that your food will not get spoiled. So we have a safe cooking temperature. Okay, so most times we get to cook, we cook. I've warmed the food, even for people at home, for the consumers. You go ahead to warm your food and say that I've warmed it without really actually knowing the particular temperature. So once it's been established that you've cooked your food to a safe internal temperature, what I mean safe internal temperature is if it's a bulky food, the internal temperature should be above 60 degrees centigrade. So this temperature kills the harmful bacteria in food. So we have examples here. We have the chicken, turkey, which is at least 75 degrees centigrade. For ground beef, pork, veal, or lamb, fish fillets, home fish, you have it in the table here. So these are the safe cooking temperatures, which will really make sure that you escape the danger zone. That's for food restaurants or food hotel, or food business operators that are dealing with hotels, or your ice creams, okay, your donuts and the likes. And then the next slide is talking about the safe or serving temperatures. Okay, first we look at the safe temperature for freezing. The safe temperature for freezing is minus 18 degrees centigrade. So it has to go down way down below 4 degrees centigrade to stop bacterial growth. So if you want to freeze, you should make sure that your freezer has this temperature of minus 18. That is the only way for long-term storage of food. And then for dry storage, you have a 10 degrees centigrade to 21 for non-perishable goods. Example, your grains, your canned, your food. So this way, it's just a basic technique that will help you to understand, depending on the nature of your food. Remember, depending on the nature of the food you are producing or the food you are managing, as a food safety professional. So when we understand the rudiments or the relationship between the storage of food, the temperature, and the time, it will really help. So we do hot holding as well. When you want to hold food, make sure it's above 60 degrees centigrade. It keeps food safe for serving. Cold holding, it also prevents bacterial growth in ready to eat. So danger zone, we know we have to avoid temperature of 5 degrees centigrade to 60 degrees centigrade. Bacteria, they will multiply rapidly this temperature. So how do you ensure that your foods are left in the supposed temperature? Use calibrated thermometers. Most times, the small food businesses, okay, that maybe the restaurants, I always mention this because it's just there. You have to, there's need to calibrate your thermometers. You calibrate often to make sure that it's what giving you the actuals before you even serve to the consumers. It ensures that ensures food safety by preventing undercooking. So oh, at this point, I am not, I am safe. The food is safe. If it's for your poultry, it's supposed to be at 75 degrees centigrade and above. You know that it is safe. It also helps to maintain food quality. But your thermometers, it has to be calibrated. How do you calibrate? Please share with us. You can always put in an ice cube and readjust the timing to 0 degrees centigrade. That way, you are trying to calibrate the thermometer. So all these things will make sure that the food that is being served on the table of the consumer is not unsafe. Is safe. Sorry, is not unsafe. So you have temperature logs, okay, for your refrigerators, for your freezers, and hot holding equipment. They are crucial. It's not just like I told us. It's not just about action. You have to document. If it's not documented, it's not done. And this will help you for a food business operator, maybe for the restaurants. It will help you, or even for those of us in the last scale. Oh, your storage temperature should be this. It should be recorded. There should be a log. It will help during audits. It will help prevent foodborne illnesses, which is even the most important thing. And it will help in waste reduction and cost savings. How does it help in waste reduction? When food is undercooked, okay, and you go ahead to serve your consumers, for those of us in the restaurants, okay, like managing restaurant businesses, you serve your consumer, and the person opens wants to cut, it's cold. I'm not eating. You end up trashing the food. Remember, I talked about food waste, which will also lead to unnecessary expenses on your own part as a food business operator. So when we keep accurate laws, it helps us measure that our food is safe and we are compliant. So according to Codes, we have what we call cold chain. Cold chain refers to a temperature-controlled supply chain that maintains perishable food at appropriate temperatures from production through transportation, storage, and distribution to prevent microbial contamination and spoilage. So the cold chain makes sure that your temperature is controlled through production. It could be through your transportation. What's the storage temperature in the van? Is the food maintained at that particular temperature? We have our raw materials that are temperature sensitive. Okay, we're supposed to be at that particular. Even once you are offloading, once you are receiving, it should be straight inside the storage that we still has that temperature reading. And throughout the distribution, because you already know, if you do not manage these temperature discrepancies, you are in for microbial growth. You're also in for contamination and then spoilage, which you wouldn't want to do. So as food business professionals in our various food industries, we should inculcate these best practices, okay, to make sure that the food businesses are producing is safe. So we have the table here for refrigeration, okay, which is less than 5 degrees centigrade. Okay, while you monitor, you avoid overloading the refrigerator. So most times when I do all this, okay, I enter the code, you see the poor storage practice. Items are being stocked together. Okay, there are no space, no overload. You are trying to save money. Okay, you don't want your business to waste money. But why you don't want to waste money, or even if you think it's wasting of money, you should also know that you might be in for food recall when a contaminated food has entered the market. So for refrigeration, you should store in airtight containers. For those of us, like I said, for the restaurants and the likes of hotels, food hotels. So Make sure you store the foods in the what airtight containers. Check expiration date. Use FIFO, first in, first out. Older stock should be in front, and then the newer stock should be behind or under. It also helps to what monitor your inventory. It helps with regular maintenance. So chilling is a temperature of 0 to 4 degrees centigrade. So chilling could be as well as your freezing. Use shallow containers. Okay, it helps cool the food quickly. You divide large portion of food, break them down. If you like, for me in my house, okay, before I even put food in the refrigerator, I also must make sure that I share them in shallow containers. This way, you preserve the food. That's one of the best practices to preserve the food and to prevent the growth of microorganisms. So we have the blast chillers. We use for high risk food. We have the cool hot food. You have to cool it. Cool your hot food before refrigerating. You don't just carry your food and then while hot, put it inside the refrigerator. You're going to distort the temperature of the refrigerator, and then it affects other foods in the refrigerator. So cold holding should be less than 5 degrees centigrade. Okay, should be less than, for those of us in the restaurant, like I always mention, because this is basically where you see these things more. Use food grade containers. Okay, use food grade containers to hold your food. You monitor temperatures regularly by the use of thermometer. Check every 2 hours to know, and of course, with calibrated thermometers. Avoid time temperature abuse. Avoid it at all costs. Cover and label food to prevent contamination. So these are the practices that can help you to really manage your food in a cold chain. So during transportation, like I've told us, you have to manage the food in such a way it prevents contamination, spoilage, and foodborne illnesses. So you can follow the best practices. Like if you have a food safety certification you are working with, the HACCP, this FSS, they are all there in that requirement. It can help you as a guide. Make sure that you implement what you are supposed to do during transportation of your food. Proper refrigeration techniques help preserve food freshness. At one, you have your food, the safety of your food is there, the suitability of food. So when you refrigerate very well, what you're talking about is prevention of bacterial growth. You are hurting this. You are controlling it. You are reducing the food safety hazard. Top shelf, you store your ready to food at the top shelf. Okay, it could be your cooked meal on the refrigerator. Middle shelf, your raw ingredients. Bottom shelf, your raw meats. Your crystal drawers. All these things are techniques that will help you make sure that food is not contaminated. So temperature monitoring and control during cold holding. Of course, your thermometer should be handy, okay, to keep food safe, okay, to understand, to make sure you monitor. And of course, they have to be calibrated. I've said earlier, it has to be calibrated. So your cold storage should have the proper storage temperature. For refrigeration should be at 4 degrees centigrade. But then for freezing, you can go as low as -18. Make sure that the food is safe. So you halt the growth of these microorganisms. Because once it leaves this temperature, it goes to what we call it, like I've explained, the danger zone, which is 5 degrees centigrade to 60 degrees centigrade. At that zone, the growth of microorganisms, they are very rapid. So you deep freeze at -30 degrees centigrade to -40. You use calibrated thermometer, like we have said. Make sure that you keep your food safe. So if we look at the picture here, we have a picture of a good storage practice. So though I might say that we have a raw food, which is edible, but the way it's still stored will ensure that there's no cross-contamination of food. Raw foods are supposed to be placed under. They are supposed to be placed under. Okay? So if you have a raw meat, so it doesn't spill, it doesn't drip, and then contaminate the cooked food. So if you have a raw meat and you're placing it on top of the shelf of the fridge, you have to stand the risk of contaminating or cross-contaminating the other food. So you use vertical storage solutions. You follow proper food organization. You utilize clear stackable bins. You leave air gaps for proper airflow. I mean, you keep loading your freezer. You keep loading the cold rooms, the storage rooms. You keep loading them up. There won't be proper air circulation. There should be a proper airflow to enable the food storage equipment to work effectively. So, like I said, use your what? FIFO, first in, first out. Separate food by storage time. So this way you prevent contamination. you prevent contamination of food. That's the only way. You have to know these techniques. And of course, according to your food operation, is what works for me in my own operation might not really work for you. So you try as much as possible to understand the risks associated with your food and how to prevent them or control them. So still talking about the guidelines, general guidelines for safe freezing or storage of some food. So you can read this up. Okay, it will really explain the types of food and how long they can stay in the refrigerator. Okay, if you want to keep it for a very long time, how long is it that you keep a particular food? If it's a whole poultry, that means you should be looking at 12 months. While for bits of their fillets should be at 9 months. So you can read this up on your own. So the next slide is talking about cooking. What is cooking? Most times for a layman, I'm cooking. And what are you cooking? 5 minutes, the food is done. But in the context of food safety, we are looking at cooking as a process of heating food to a specific temperature for a sufficient period of time to kill harmful microorganisms that can cause foodborne illnesses. So you have to cook your food at a particular temperature to make sure it's safe for consumption, especially for this high risk food on the table. We have the poultry, we have ground meat, they are high risk food because they have high water activities. And then for your leftovers, because you want to reheat, you have to reheat at a temperature of 75 degrees or above to make sure that if you have toxins, okay, you will be able to eliminate. Okay, if you have vegetative microorganisms, you can eliminate them at that temperature. So when you cook, it has to be done. It has to be a continuous step. Okay, it has to be a continuous step. It's not something you cook, you turn off, you come back, you turn it on again. So it's not a good practice. Even when you keep breaking time during your cooking, it may lead to contamination of the food, both of microorganisms. So how do you prevent foodborne illnesses when you cook? You ensure that even cooking, step food while cooking. Like I've also said the last slide, you should a continuous one step. It has to be a one continuous step. Flip or rotate large cuts. Make sure that you avoid partial cooking. If you want to boil, it's a type of way of cooking. You want to boil your steam. You bring soups. You bring them to a rolling boil. Make sure they boil, okay, and make sure you steam food until it reaches to the safe internal temperature. Remember, you are supposed to be working with your thermometer. For those of us working in the restaurants, your thermometer must be at hand, okay, and it must be calibrated at all times. But so if you are using the microwave pattern for cooking, you make sure you cover your food. Most times when the food enter microwave, you see people because I'm using microwave. I'm not supposed to cover it. No, you're supposed to cover the food, and you follow the 2 hours rule. Not leave food at room temperature for more than 2 hours. At this room temperature, it's expected that after 2 hours there's a rapid growth of microorganisms for some food. Okay, so the maximum you can even say is 4 hours, depending on type of food. So you refrigerate the food within 1 hour to 2 hours. You have made you refrigerate to halt the growth of microorganisms. So, like I said, we have the tools, essential food tools, okay, or food equipment. So you have the cooking timers, you have color coded utensils, and cutting boards. Where you color code your cutting boards. It could be red, blue, yellow, and green. And then the food thermometer. We have the different types here. We have the digital. This digital thermometer, it will help penetrate in the thickest part of the food. Keep it peak reading. Be probe with an alarm. Or once it has reached a particular temperature, it beeps you to make sure so that you know that the food has reached the temperature you are expecting it to be. So, in as much as we are requiring for food safety, we also require that we take care of our food equipment, okay, or the essential tools that we need to carry out our operations to make sure that the food is safe. So, for you to keep food safe before serving it, for the restaurant people that you display your food in Bell Marine and the likes, we have two techniques: hot holding, and then cold holding. For your hot holding, you see most times these TV tables and the Bell Marine, you go there, it's not hot. So they have they have what they are supposed to do. They have the requirements they're supposed to meet. If your Bell Marine is not keeping the food hot, It's not a bain-marie. If your oven or warming cabinet is not keeping your food at least above 60 degrees centigrade, that means you need to calibrate. There should be maintenance for all this equipment to give you the desired result. Remember, we are dealing with microorganisms, which more or less like a human. Okay, they look for a way to survive either way. So you don't really for you to handle food and make it safe at the end of the day, you have to be very smart on how you handle your food equipment. You have to maintain. It should be ongoing for cold holding, your refrigeration. Okay, your cold wells. So they should be maintained and they should be monitored at time intervals. So you can have you see the tips there for hot holding and for cold holding. You're serving when you're serving your food, keep the food hot. See, most times you go to a restaurant to eat, you see the waiters, they bring the food, and you have to even call the attention to make sure that they reheat the food. It's not supposed to be so. So your food they are even serving as a food business operator in your small business or in your large food business, you should make sure that maintain at temperature of above 60 degrees. So the microorganisms will not thrive there. So like we also have the rudiments of reheating, how you reheat your food, make sure that the food is safe to prevent contamination of food. So food business operators, you need to be aware of that, the hazard you've been talking about it. You need to be aware. You need to understand the consequences of your hazard for the consumer side, and you should ensure that they're properly managed. It's not a one-size-fits for everybody. Learn your operation, learn the nature of your food, and then look for possible ways to prevent cross-contamination. So basically, it's just this for the food business operators that are handling restaurants, okay, or hotels. So you can use these best practices to prevent cross-contamination between your raw food and your cooked food. So, what is dry storage? For those of us that are maybe in the bigger industry, you see dry storage, and most times the humidity of the warehouse is not even monitored. It should be monitored. It should not go below 60%. If it goes below 60%, the humidity should be below. The humidity should be below 60% to prevent mold growth. Sorry, it should be below. At this point, you monitor. There should be a probe inside to understand the humidity of your warehouse. For dry storage, the temperature of the warehouse. You should also understand. You should also have a thermometer probe where you'll be able to monitor these readings. And you store raw allergenic food separately. Cross contamination basically happens between allergens and non-allergenic food. It could be an allergen cross contact. If at the point of reception, a particular product has this allergen, and another product has this allergen, or because they say they are allergens, you put the two of them together. Remember, in your food labels, okay, you have already declared a particular allergen on it. So if there's a presence of another allergen, it's a cross contact. And cross contamination is basically when the food that doesn't have any allergen at all gets contaminated with another allergy. So when a consumer eats this food that reacts to these allergens, the body produces histamine that will make the consumer start having hives, rashes all over the place. At the end of the day, the person is falls sick, and the food is unsafe for him or her. So for your storage techniques, you have to make sure that you store allergenic food differently, store ready to eat food separately, and also store cooked food separately. And should not be stored together to prevent cross contamination. Then you rotate you rotate FIFO, you keep rotating, and your FIFO to help you manage inventory. The first one in was get out first. You don't start issuing materials to the production from the new stock. It should be from the older stock first in. So when you understand the principle of FIFO, it also helps make sure that the food is not contaminated at the end of the day. So how do we care for our food equipment, our food tools, and our food surfaces? So, I mentioned your thermometers, okay, your cotton pods, they are all food equipment. Even your general facilities also a part of food equipment. Okay, so if you do not sanitize, if you don't know the proper way of cleaning, it could lead to contamination. And if you join the class earlier, you would also understand the 6 principles of hygiene according to Codex. That's talking about the way you handle your equipment. So when you talk about cleaning in the food industry, there are two different things. You have cleaning and you have sanitization. So we can complete the sanitization with the use of chlorine, which is readily available, and it should not be above 200 ppm parts per million. Acetic acid and hydrogen peroxide for your food equipment, for your pipes and food processing areas. We have the quartz. The quartz, you can handle your utensils. And remember, for your sanitizers to be effective, you should use an accurate concentration. Use the manufacturer's safety data sheet to have a good concentration to make sure that these sanitizers will work effectively. And the greatest one could be what? Hot water sanitization. Or you know that you're supposed to do your dishwashers for the restaurant people. Okay, you make at 100 degrees and above, the food is what? Or the pathogenic microorganisms are killed. So you make sure that you take care of your food tools. You always clean them before sanitizing them. You clean and to reduce dirt. Because if there are dirt on them, it reduces the potency of the sanitizer. So you also have to follow manufacturer instruction for dilution. Like I said, and the contact time for sanitizer. You rotate sanitizers so that they don't build microbial resistance. And you store clean and sanitized tools in a dry area to prevent contamination. So what are the good food packaging techniques that will help prevent food contamination? It plays a critical role in food safety and in preventing contamination. So you can also quite agree with me that your food packaging material has a major role to play. If you don't choose the right food packaging material, your food might not be fresh at the end of the day. It might even get spoiled. It's more like you are trying to use what is it called? You are using a food full of moisture in a paper or cardboard packaging. It won't keep the food. It will enable the growth of microorganisms with time. So we have different types of packaging materials. We have your plastic packaging, and it's common and versatile everywhere. Your soda, okay, your ice cream packs, and the like. So these plastic packaging materials, they are moisture resistant and they can extend shelf life of food. But however, some of them can leach chemicals. So that's why it's essential we use food grade plastics only. And then you use your glass package. For the odd thing about it is that it's heavy, but it's non-reactive. It's reusable. It's excellent barrier to oxygen. Metal packaging for beverages, for your vegetables, your meat and your fish. So there's some concern is that they might have a BPA lining. Or what is BPA lining? Okay, benzo chemicals that use inside of the packaging material. So this studies have it that with time that these chemicals they degrade. Usually, the food producers they want to use it to make sure that they prevent corrosion of the metal packaging. But studies have it that it will be cancerous. So the regulation now is that you use BPA-free options, then your paper and cardboard packaging. The concern here is that you can when you don't handle it correctly, yes, the paper can tear, okay, but they are eco-friendly depending on your nature of food. So if it's food that is for consumption immediately, you can do your paper packaging or cardboard packaging. So the next slide, back to cleaning and sanitizing. So when in the food industry, it's just as a part of a hygiene protocol. We talked about the preventive programs that can help you have a good hygiene system in place. So your cleaning should be a fourth line of defense. It should be a first line of defense. It should not even be a last option. It should be a first line of defense. Like I told us, there are differences between all these things. Okay, you have the cleaning, which is the removal of products and residual soils. Products and residual soils, don't forget. But sanitization, it reduces the microorganisms to a safe level for general public health. And sterilization, total elimination of living organisms. So it is important to know that cleaning and sanitizing, there are two different things. So most times, okay, we want to clean, we don't want to clean, let's go ahead to sanitize. Please, cleaning must come first before you do what? You sanitize. So why do you clean? Clean is not just the appearance. You see the teeth, yeah? Is it clean or not? So it's not just the appearance. It is critical. There are some measures you should use. Why is it essential? It prevents what? Contamination between raw and cooked food. When you've used your chopping board, chopping board for the raw food, okay, you're supposed to clean. You're not supposed to sanitize before you go ahead to use it for another food time. It also what reduces the risk of foodborne illness, pathogenic microorganisms. So when cleaning is essential, it's not a last resort thing. It's not it's just a basic condition. It's what we have to do to prevent foodborne illnesses or food safety hazards. So for you to even have a cleaning program, there are some steps you have to take. Please take note. It's not just, oh, I need to clean, let me clean. You have to do a risk assessment to evaluate what you're even cleaning. Like I keep mentioning, you've caught a raw meat with a chopping board, and you know that you are dealing with salmonella. So what is the method of cleaning that eliminates this? That's what you have to have at the back of your mind. So once you do a risk assessment, the probability of this happening and the severity, it helps you to tailor your cleaning program to make sure that your food facility, your food contact surfaces, your food tools, they are clean enough. You determine the frequency. And of course, the frequency of cleaning the production area or your kitchen, okay, or high sensitive areas will not be the same. It will not be the same frequency with probably the support areas in your facility. So there should be a frequency, and you should select the appropriate cleaning agents for each of the tasks you want to embark on. So it also develop a cleaning procedure for all tasks. Remember, when it comes to food safety, if it's not documented, it's not done. Have an SOP, have a standard operating procedure. People need to follow the guidelines, how it is stated. Or it has to reach areas, the equipment with poor designs. How do you address the cleaning? You have to take notes of these things for you to develop a proper cleaning program. So another one is validation. Like I said, validation is a kind of test to make sure that this system is capable of delivering this. It's always supported by scientific evidence. Oh, if you have biofilms in your food equipment, you have biofilms, and for you to keep clean effectively, you should know that for biofilms, they have to have a strong mechanical action using chlorine dioxide. So for each type of cleaning, you should have a package to at this concentration, this chemical will be able to handle this soiling. Then you monitor and you verify. You change management and continual improvement. If it's not working, since after monitoring and you think it's not functioning the way it is, you change. You review and then you continue to improve. So last but not least, you maintain records. You already know why you have to maintain records. Maintaining records will help you doing audits. Okay, it will also help you to understand your flow and how things are being done. Key areas that require proper cleaning and sanitation. We have key areas. We have the food contact surfaces. We have the equipment and storage areas. Then we have hand washing and employee hygiene. We have floors, drains, and waste disposal. So let's not just limit our hygiene practices when it comes to food contact surfaces. Your cutting board, your knives, your countertops, your mixers, your conveyor belts. We should also look at your equipment, have a frequency, how soon you are supposed to clean. Even your hand washing stations, they're supposed to clean. They're supposed to be clean. And then you monitor the hygiene, hand washing of your employees. Remember, personal hygiene of the food handlers. It needs to be monitored. And then the floors, the drains, the waste disposal. Most times when the auditors come, you look at your drains. You see a rat inside your drain. So these places are critical places. You should always clean. So like I said, know the sanitizer you are using. Of course, afterwards, cleaning. Sanitization comes afterwards, cleaning. It could be the readily available chlorine hypochlorite, sodium hypochlorite that is everywhere. You use it 200 parts per million without rinse. But if it's above that, okay, you should know you should rinse. That's why we say you use your safety data sheet to get the actual concentration of these sanitizers. Your parts are not they are not that corrosive. Okay, you can use 200 parts per million without also rinsing. The iodophorus you use 25 parts per million without rinse. So you need to understand how the sanitizers they work. So it's not just about I've cleaned, okay, I've done my own, okay, and I'm sure I use that particular sanitizer to do the cleaning. At the end of the day, you end up causing more harm than good. So for you as a food safety professional in your organization, you as also a food safety team member, well, you should also understand these things. Follow the label and instruction. Ensure rinsing where it is required. Oh, you're producing food that is high in fat. You know that for your disinfection, you should be looking at the sodium hydroxide. You should be looking at alkali, okay, to make sure that you have a thorough cleaning. It's not a one-piece site for all operation, but for you to understand these things, you have to really understand what you are doing, what you are producing, and then target your cleanings. So the food premises and equipment, they should be maintained. They should be maintained every time. They should be maintained. It's not, because I have followed the guidelines and I've used my facility, so let's get to work. For you to even start it up, you should know. You should have things in mind that you put in place before you have a proper, safe food production location and facility. The location of the business should be there. The design and layout of the food, this all should be the internal structures. Are your floors, are they free from pits and crevices? Are you're supposed to use an epoxy flooring for your shop floors? Is it what you have used? Do you have slopy ends? Do you have cracks on the wall? So these are things that you should. It's not just a one-off. Okay, it's a continuous. There should also be a continuous management of all these things to make sure that the food is safe. And then your equipment. I talk about hygienic design. Okay, for you to have a good hygienic design. Oh, okay, you have a missing tank, for instance. It should be accessible. It should be cleanable. It should be drainable. It should have a material compatibility. You have to segregate all these things. It's not. You don't just go to the market to get any equipment. What you want to produce. So the European Hygienic Engineering and Design, they have a standardization guideline. It's online. You can go ahead, Google it, make research. It will help. It will really help. For FSS 2000, we know we have the equipment management as additional requirements. And you are expected, even if in any case your food business has purchased an equipment that is not safe, that is not of good hygiene design, you should know that you have to do a compensation plan. You have to take note of where the hygiene design is lacking. And of course, remember I said, with the engineering team, it's not what you alone can do as a food scientist. They are the things they will point out to you to let you know. And then the key personal hygiene standards for food handlers. So basically, I'll be talking about how you handle your food from storage, okay, to distribution and the likes. But then, what are the key personal hygienes you should have as a food handler? If you do not maintain this degree of hygiene, forget it. Remember that food hygiene is the basic condition. It is not something you have to do as a last option. So we advise that you not wear your false nails, your dirty nails, your nail polish, okay, your personal effects, your taste. You do not taste food with palms. More times, because employees, you're not allowed to take food they're producing home. You see that they end up using their hands to taste food inside the production area. This is not allowed. And for open wounds, like we already know, our bodies, when we have open wounds, is a cause for staph errors, mentioned but not the least. So we are supposed to carry open wounds, boys, or even sleep in the production area. It's not like that. Those personal hygiene that we are taught in school. It goes across that. You don't need to wear dirty clothes and boots, pockets above the waist. Okay, you pocket above the waist. You put your pen. You bend down as a food down inside the food production area. It could contaminate the food. Your pen. The cover might fall and can serve as a physical contaminant to the food or physical hazard. So for food handlers, you're not expected to wear eyelashes. Okay, you're not supposed to wear jewelries, watches, clothes with beads and stones. There shouldn't be any form of smoking or vaping or spitting, chewing, eating. All these things are not allowed. You already know why. To prevent contamination of the food. So we talk about proper hand washing as a basic line of what can even do to prevent food contamination from food handler to the food. So according to World Health Organization, we have 7 steps of proper hand washing. And this proper hand washing should run at least 20 minutes. Sometimes this is always the difficult part of it. You see food handlers, no, I just wash my hand now. Do I need to wash my hand again? Yes. You should wash your hand before you even start work. After breaks, you should wash your hand. Even after using the toilet, after handling any contaminated material, you should wash the hand because you must have touched a raw food or an unprocessed food with your, or you must have dipped your nose. You must have touched areas that you're not supposed to touch, and then you go ahead to touch the food. You cross contaminate the food. So we have a proper hand washing technique. It's not just like, oh, let's wash my hand. You place your hand, you run the water through, you go. You should at least first wet your hands with water. Wet your hands with water. So class, I would want us to do this together. I would like us to do this together. Okay, we can do practice dry practice. So what you have to do is, once you get to the wash basin, you wet your hands with water. Well, after wetting your hands with water, you apply soap. It could be the automatic soap dispenser. Make sure you don't use bar soaps. Okay, you don't get to use bar soaps. You don't get to use detergents. Okay, you wash with what liquid soap, maybe from the dispenser. Then you rub to your palms. See where we get it from. Most times you see the food handlers, they keep running their hands, they keep rubbing their palms on the running water. Okay, without even removing it away from the running water. So you have to remove your palms in your hand from the running water. Then you rub very vigorously. Watch me, opposing palms. Okay, you interlock your fingers. You rotate your left thumb. Okay, you rotate your right, vice versa, and then you rinse thoroughly with water. Did anybody practice this? You rub the palms of your fingers. Okay, opposing palms. Okay, interlock. Your left thumb. Okay, your left thumb. Your right, vice versa. Okay, make sure you rub, and then you rinse your hands thoroughly with running water. And there's another thing that happens at this stage. After rinsing our hands with water, you dry your hands thoroughly. You can use, for those of us that use hand dryer, it's fine. But for a single towel, you can use a single towel use. And then if you have to lock the tap, make sure you use another towel to lock the tap. This is where most food handlers, they get it wrong. After drying with the towel, you go ahead to use your hand to lock up the tap without using a fresh towel. So your towel has to be a single-use towel. In this way, you are sure that you have practiced or you have done the proper hand washing techniques. So, yeah, at the last slide of today's training, which is talking about the general hygiene protocols for food handlers. Like I said, the proper hand washing should always be there. Before you start work, at each break, every other time you need to wash your hands. You should wear a protective clothing. And then you also have to report illnesses. Once you are sick as a food handler, it is your responsibility to report. As a food safety professional in your organization, it's your responsibility to identify these personnel that are sick, probably through the food handler's test, to make sure that they do not have the possibility of infecting the food. And then employee training, I said, is an ongoing stuff. It's not a one-off thing. You keep training and you keep refreshing the people, you keep doing awareness, and then you monitor. You monitor your food environment, you monitor the processes, you monitor the chain. Remember, when it comes to food safety, it should cut across the chain of your food. So this way, we will be able to ensure that our food is safe from farm to fork. And like we all know, a safer food is a better health for consumers. And then food safety is everyone's responsibility. Today, we'll be able to talk to our food business operators, the food safety professionals, and food handlers. But for our consumers, it's also what their responsibility. Thank you.
The temperature danger zone is correctly described as the temperature range A, between 40 degrees C and 50 degrees C. B, where harmful bacteria grow rapidly. D, where food should be stored. E, temperature of cold storage. So majority of the participants answered B.
Okay,
where harmful bacteria grow rapidly.
Fantastic, that's the answer. Kudos, guys.
Okay. Number 2, an employee would not be allowed to work in a food production area with A, headache, B, diarrhea, C, a sore throat, D, a cut with a wound dressing. And majority answered D, but B is the answer.
Thank you.
Majority answer. Majority answered D. A cut with a wound dressing.
No,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
no.
you have
When
diarrhea.
so when you have a cut with a wound dressing, it's allowed. Okay, you don't during the class I mentioned when you have open cuts that you do not dress, it's a food safety risk. The possibility of the fluids from the wound or blood contamination is very very high. So for cuts with proper wound dressing, you can always be allowed to work in a food processing environment. Thank you. So
Okay.
fantastic.
So number 3. What is the proper minimum clearance between the floor and floor mounted equipment? Example shelf. A 8-inch, B 15-inch, C 20-inch, and D 6-inch. And majority skipped.
Majority skip. Okay, guys. Sorry, you skipped that. So the proper is it has to be space for storage has to be 6 inch. It has to be 6 inch from the
Okay.
floor and to your storage. Why do you have to give that space? You give that space to facilitate what cleaning. You give that space to make sure that you do not have places where pests can harbor in your storage areas. Thank you.
Okay. So number 5, what temperature is required for rapidly heating previously cooked food? A 40 degrees C, B 75 degrees C, C 100 degrees C, and D 4 degrees C. And majority answered B 75 degrees C.
Correct. 75 degrees C.
Number 5, effective hand washing takes place for at least A 10 seconds, B 1 hour, C 20 seconds, D 5 minutes. And majority, okay, there is a draw between B and C. B and
And
C.
B,
B is 1
what?
hour, which is not, and C is 20 seconds.
Okay, you are expected to have a proper hand washing at least 20 seconds. So who wants to wash hands for 1 hour while the lines are still running? So
Still running.
you don't need to spend such time to wash your hand. So the correct answer there is what 20 seconds.
So we have number 6. How must raw chicken be stored in a refrigerator? A, uncovered. B, below cooked foods. C, above raw beef. D, near thermometer. And majority skipped. Number 6.
So they should be stored below cooked food. Raw food materials, raw materials like your raw meat, raw chicken should be stored below cooked food.
Number 7, benefits of food safety for food businesses include or except A, company reputation, B, compliance with legislation, C, better working environment, and D, loss of customer. Benefits include or except, and majority answered D. That's D.
Perfect. Loss of customers.
Number 8, all these are types of food safety hazards except A, physical hazard, B, social hazard, C, chemical hazard, D, biological hazard. And we have B. Majority answered B. B is
Perfect.
social hazard. Yeah.
Social hazard. Perfect.
Number 9, sanitizers are chemical designed to A, be rinsed after every use, B, kill most bacteria on food contact surface, C, to clean food contact surfaces, D, be diluted in water of at least 200 degrees C. And majority answered B, which is kill most bacteria on food contact surface.
Thank you. Perfect.
So number 10, the final question. The first in first out, that is process, is used in product rotation / inventory. B, reheating. C, stacking. D, hot holding. And majority answered number 10. Majority answered A,
Perfect, perfect. Thank you,
Good job.
guys. Thank you,
Thank
thank you,
you.
thank you. So we come to the end of this class today. So I'm sure that for all the food business operators, the food safety professionals here, and food handlers, you're able to know the food safety hazards and the way to mitigate risks associated with them. And also, yeah, you can understand that you have legislation, the likes of NAFDAC, SON, which you have to comply with. And then knowledge of the practices that you can do across all your food chain to make sure that it's food is safe. So go in there and make your food safety management system robust. Okay, for the students in our midst, this is what food safety is all about and hygiene. And we wish you the best as you progress in your career. Thank you, guys.